Hello everyone. Welcome back to English in Fluency, the best place to train your ears and build your confidence. I am your host, Alex, and today we have a very special episode designed specifically for your listening growth. We are going to dive deep into the world of numbers and practical details. You know, often when we learn English in a classroom, we focus on grammar rules and big vocabulary words, but in the real world, some of the most important information comes in the form of small details. I am talking about dates, times, prices, phone numbers, and addresses. Missing these small details can lead to big problems. Imagine missing your flight because you heard the wrong time, or paying too much because you misunderstood a price. Today, we are going to make sure that does not happen. We are going to listen to several real-life situations, and I will guide you through them to help you catch every single number. So, please grab a notebook, find a quiet place, and let's get started. This is going to be an interactive journey, so be ready to pause and think. To begin our practice, I want you to imagine a busy airport. This is a place where listening is absolutely critical. There is noise everywhere, people are rushing, and announcements are being made over speakers that might not be very clear. Our first character today is a young woman named Sophie. Sophie is traveling alone for the first time. She is visiting a new city for a job interview. She is nervous but excited. She walks into the departure hall and looks up at the big screens, but they are currently being updated. She needs to find her gate. She hears an announcement over the intercom. Listen carefully to the situation I am about to describe. The voice over the speaker was slightly distorted, but Sophie knew she had to focus. The announcement said, "Attention passengers on Flight 472 to Brighton. Your flight is now boarding at Gate 15. We repeat, Gate 15. Sophie checked her ticket. She saw the flight number 472. It matched, but she almost made a mistake. She heard the word 50 in her head because she was expecting a high number gate, but the voice clearly said 15. This is a common mistake for B1 learners. The numbers 15 and 50 sound very similar. 15 has a clear teen sound at the end, while 50 has a tie sound. Sophie took a deep breath and walked to gate 15. She was glad she listened carefully, because if she had gone to gate 50, she would have missed her plane. Now, let's pause for a moment to practice this distinction. I want you to imagine you are at the airport. I am going to give you a few pairs of numbers, and I want you to really focus on the ending sound of each word. This skill will help you not just with flights, but with prices and ages too. If I say 13, the stress is on the second part, teen. If I say 30, the stress is on the first part, thir, and the ending is a soft tie. Let's try a quick mental exercise. Imagine you hear an announcement for a train. The train to the city center is leaving from platform 16. Not 60, 16. If you have a pen and paper, you can write that down. Platform 16. The train leaves at 4:45. Did you hear that? 4:45, not 4:15. The difference is crucial. In our story, Sophie made it to her gate safely. She sat down and looked at her watch. She had exactly 20 minutes before the plane door closed. She decided to buy a bottle of water. This brings us to our next key topic: prices and shopping interactions. Let's move to a different scene, but keep Sophie with us. She is now at a small convenience store inside the airport terminal. She picks up a bottle of water and a small sandwich. She walks to the counter. The shop assistant, A man named Ben smiles at her. Ben scans her items and looks at the register screen. He says, "That will be £12.50, please." Sophie opens her wallet. She has a £20 note and some coins. She needs to calculate quickly. She hands him the £20 note. Ben opens the cash register and counts out her change. He hands her a few coins and a note. He says, "Here is your change, £7.50. Sophie pauses. She counts the money. She wants to be sure she received the correct amount. She gave 20. The cost was £12.50. 20 minus 12 is 8. But he gave her £7.50. She looks at Ben, confused. Ben smiles and points to the screen. "Actually, the sandwich is on special offer today," he explains. "The price dropped by 50 pence just this morning, so the total was £12, not £12.50. My mistake. I misread the label earlier." Sophie smiles and puts the change away. This interaction shows us that listening to prices is not just about hearing the number once. It is about checking, understanding currency like pounds, dollars, or euros, and being able to do quick mental math. In English, we often say prices in two parts. £12.50. We do not always say £12.50. We just say £12.50. This makes it faster, but it can be harder for learners to catch. You have to be fast. Let's stay with the theme of money for a bit longer because it is so important in daily life. Imagine a different character, an older man named Mr. Harrison. Mr. Harrison is looking to buy a new television. He is in a large electronics store. He is talking to a sales assistant named Chloe. Mr. Harrison sees a TV he likes. It looks very modern. He asks Chloe for the price. Chloe checks her tablet and says, "This model is currently on sale. The original price was $699, but today only, it is $549. That is a big difference. Mr. Harrison is tempted, but he needs to know about the warranty. He asks, "How long is the guarantee?" Chloe replies, "It comes with a standard 2-year warranty, but you can extend it to 5 years for an additional $80. Mr. Harrison thinks about this. He does some mental calculations. The TV is $549. The extra warranty is $80. The total would be $629. He decides he wants the extra protection. He agrees to the price. Chloe takes his credit card and processes the payment. In this scenario, there were several numbers to catch: the original price, the sale price, the length of the standard warranty, the length of the extended warranty, and the cost of the extension. If you missed one number, you might not understand the deal. For example, if you heard 500 but missed 49, you might be surprised at the final receipt. Or, if you heard 5 years but didn't know it cost extra, you would be disappointed later. Listening for details in shopping means listening for conditions. Words like original price, sale, additional, and only are triggers that tell you a number is coming. Now, let's switch gears completely. Let's leave the shops and airports and go to a quiet office. We are going to talk about phone numbers and contact information. This is a classic listening challenge. When someone gives you a phone number, they often say it very quickly. They assume you know the rhythm. In many English-speaking countries, phone numbers are said in groups. For example, a number like 555-908-2341 is rarely said digit by digit in a monotone voice. We group them. We might say 555 for the area code, then 908 for the middle, and 2341 for the last part. Notice how I said 23 and 41? We often group the last four digits into pairs. This can be very confusing if you are expecting single numbers. Let's imagine a scene. A woman named Elena is at a business conference. She meets a potential client named Robert. They have a good conversation, and Robert wants her to call him. He says, "Give me a call tomorrow. My number is 07700 900 447. Did you hear that? He said 44. In British English especially, we use the word double when a digit is repeated. Instead of saying 44, we say double four. In American English, you might hear 44 more often, but double is still used. Elena takes down the number. She repeats it back to him to check. So that's 07700 900 447. Robert nods. Actually, he says, the last part is 47, not double four. Elena laughs and corrects it. This is a great strategy. Always repeat the number back. It shows you are listening and it confirms the details. Let's try a practice scenario right now involving contact details. Imagine I am a receptionist at a hotel. You are calling to book a room. I need your phone number. You need to give it to me clearly. Imagine your phone number is 555-0198. You could say 555-0198. Or you could say 555-0198. We often use O for zero in phone numbers and years, though zero is also correct. Now, imagine your number has repeated digits, 555-0098. You might say 555-0098 or 555-8899. You might say 555-8899. Getting used to this rhythm is key. It helps you distinguish between 58 and 88. One is 58, the other is 88. If you are writing this down, listen for that word double. It saves you from writing the wrong digit. Let's apply this to a story. A man named Lucas is trying to order a pizza over the phone. The pizza shop is very loud. The worker on the phone asks, "What is your address?" Lucas lives at 45B Pine Street. He says, 45B Pine Street. The worker asks, "Is that apartment 4 or 5? Lucas realizes the confusion. He speaks more clearly. "No, it is the number 45, apartment B." The worker understands. "Oh, okay. 45B. This shows that sometimes numbers sound like other words. 4 and 5 sound like 40 or 50, if not said clearly. Spelling out details or asking, "Is that 40 or 45?" is a vital skill for B1 learners. Let's move on to another vital area, time and schedules. Time is tricky because we have two main ways to say it. We have the digital way, like 4:30, and the traditional way, like 4:30. You need to understand both. Let's meet a character named Sarah. Sarah is a tourist in London. She wants to take a bus tour. She walks up to the ticket booth. The seller tells her, "The next bus leaves at 9:45. Sarah looks at her watch. It is currently 9:15. She does a quick calculation. 9:45 means 15 minutes before 10. So, 9:45. She has 30 minutes to wait. She buys a ticket. Then she asks, "When does the last bus return?" The seller says, "The last bus returns at 6 p.m. sharp." Sarah notes this down. 6 p.m. sharp. That means exactly 6 o'clock, not 6:05. She decides to explore the area. Later, she hears someone say, "It's 5:20. She knows she needs to head back to the bus stop soon. In this story, we saw phrases like quarter to, quarter past, half past, and sharp. These are the essentials of time telling. If you hear half past, remember it means 30 minutes past the hour. If you hear quarter, think of the number 15. A quarter is 15 minutes, so quarter past 3 is 3:15. Quarter to 4 is 3:45. It is like a pizza cut into 4 slices. Each slice is a quarter, or 15 minutes. Listening for these prepositions, to and past, changes the time completely. 10 to 3 is 2:50. 10 past 3 is 3:10. Now, let's combine time and travel in a slightly more complex story. Imagine two friends, Mike and Julie. They are planning to meet for dinner and a movie. Mike calls Julie. "Hey, Julie, the movie starts at 7:30, he says. "I think we should meet at the restaurant at 6 o'clock. That will give us plenty of time to eat." Julie agrees. "Sounds good," she says, "but I finish work at 5:30. It takes me 40 minutes to get there, so I might be 5 minutes late. Let's say 6:05. Mike says, "Okay, see you at 6:05. They hang up. Later, Mike is stuck in traffic. He calls Julie back. "I'm running late," he says. "The traffic is terrible. I will be there at 6:20. Julie sighs. "Okay, I will wait at the bar." Mike finally arrives at 6:25. They rush through their meal. They leave the restaurant at 7:10. The theater is a 10-minute walk. They arrive at the cinema at 7:20. They have 10 minutes to buy popcorn and find their seats. They make it just in time. In this short interaction, we heard times like 7:30, 6 o'clock, 5:30, 6:05, 6:20, 6:25, 7:10, and 7:20. Did you notice the different ways they were spoken? Sometimes they used a clock. Sometimes they used the digital style like 6:20. Sometimes they said 5 minutes late. Understanding time isn't just about the clock. It's about duration. 40 minutes to get there. 10-minute walk. These duration phrases help you plan your life. If someone says, "It takes 3 hours," you know that is a long trip. If they say, "It takes 5 minutes," it is short. Let's change the setting to a workplace environment. We are now in a meeting room. A manager named David is speaking to his team. He is presenting the quarterly sales results. He points to a chart on the wall. "Our sales increased by 15% last quarter," he says. "We sold a total of 2,400 units." The team claps. David continues. "However, our costs also went up. We spent $10,000 on marketing." He pauses. "This means our total profit was $50,000. One of the employees, a woman named Lisa, raises her hand. "Did you say 50,000 or 15,000? She asks. This is a very good question. In a business context, mixing up 50 and 15 can be a disaster. David clarifies, "It was 50,000, 50,000. He enunciates clearly. He might even write it on the board. Listening to large numbers in English follows a pattern. We use commas to separate thousands. 1,000, 10,000, 100,000, 1,000,000. When speaking, we often pause at these commas. 2,400. The pause helps the listener process the magnitude. If you hear 15%, you need to know if that is good or bad based on context. In school, 15% is a bad grade. In sales growth, 15% is often very good. Context gives meaning to the number. Let's try a deeper practice with statistics. Imagine you are listening to a news report on the radio. The reporter says, The population of the city has grown significantly. In 2010, the population was 1.2 million. Today, it is estimated at 1.8 million. Here we have decimal numbers. 1.2, 1.8. These are not whole numbers. In English, we use the word point for the dot. We read the numbers after the point individually. So 1.2 is 1.2, not 1.20. This is a common mistake. You must say 1.2. If the number is 1.25, you say 1.25. Let's go back to our news report. The reporter continues. The average house price is now £350,000. That is an increase of 10% from last year. You need to catch 350,000. That is a big number. If you miss the 100, you might think it is 3,000, which is very cheap for a house. Listening for the magnitude words 100,000, million, billion is essential. They act as anchors for the smaller numbers. Let's meet another character, a student named Tom. Tom is in a history lecture at university. The professor is speaking fast. The war began in 1765, the professor says. It lasted for 8 years, ending in 1783. Tom is writing notes. He writes 1765 and 1783. He finds years tricky. In English, we usually split years into 2 parts. 1765 is 1765. We say the first 2 numbers, then the last 2. Like a rugby score. 1765. However, for years in the 2000s, we often say 2000 and so 2005 is 2005. 2023 can be 2023 or 2023. Both are common. Tom continues to listen. The professor says, in the year 1990, the treaty was signed. Tom writes 1990. He is getting good at this. He knows that if he misses the year, he loses the timeline of the story. History is just numbers and dates. If you cannot catch the dates, the story has no structure. Now, I want to tell you a story that brings all these elements together. It is a story about a man named Richard, who is planning a surprise party for his wife, Emily. Richard has to organize everything perfectly, which means he has to listen to a lot of details. First, he calls a bakery. He wants to order a cake. The baker asks, "How many people are coming?" Richard thinks. "About 25 people," he says. The baker replies, "Okay, for 25 people, you need a cake that serves 30. We have a chocolate cake that serves 30 for $45. Richard agrees. "I'll take it," he says. "I need to pick it up on Saturday the 14th at 2 p.m. The baker confirms, "Saturday the 14th at 2 p.m. That is 3 days from now." Richard hangs up. He caught the price, $45. He caught the pickup time, 2 p.m. He caught the date, the 14th. Next, Richard calls a decoration company. He wants to rent some tables and chairs. The rental agent says, "We have a special package. 6 tables and 40 chairs for $120 for the weekend." Richard asks, "Does that include delivery?" The agent says, "Delivery is an extra $30. Richard calculates. 120 plus 30 is 150. "Okay," Richard says. "I need them delivered to 754 Maple Lane." The agent repeats the address. 754 Maple Lane. Got it. Richard has successfully handled prices, quantities, and an address. Notice how the address numbers were said individually. 754. That is standard for street numbers. We rarely say 754 for an address. We say 754. Finally, Richard calls a band to play music. The band leader, a guy named Steve, tells him, "We charge $500 for a 3-hour set." Richard asks, "Can you play from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m.?" Steve says, "Yes, 7 to 10 works. We need a deposit of $100 today." Richard reads out his credit card number. 4567, he starts. He groups the numbers. 8910. He finishes the long string of digits. Expiration date, 12/25. Steve confirms. "Great, you are all booked for the 14th. Richard has successfully navigated 3 different transactions involving numbers. He caught quantities, 25 people, 6 tables, 40 chairs. He caught prices, $45, $120, $30, $500, $100. He caught dates and times, 14th, 2 p.m., 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. He caught addresses and credit card numbers. If he had missed any of these, the party might have been a disaster. No cake, no chairs, or no music. This story illustrates that in real life, numbers do not appear in isolation. They are mixed together. You have to switch your ear from listening for a price, to listening for a date, to listening for a phone number. Now, let's focus on how you can improve your own listening skills for these specific areas. One technique I recommend is shadowing. When you listen to a podcast or watch a video and you hear a number, repeat it out loud immediately. If the speaker says, "The meeting is at 5:30, you say 5:30. This connects the sound to the muscle memory in your mouth. It helps your brain process the sound faster next time. Another technique is to listen to the news. News reports are full of statistics, dates, and times. The reporters speak clearly, but quickly. Try to write down every number you hear in a 3-minute segment. Then, check the transcript if there is one. You might be surprised at what you missed. Was it 5 million or 50 million? Was it 2010 or 2010? These small differences change the meaning of the world around you. Let's practice one more scenario involving health and medicine, as this is very practical. Imagine a doctor speaking to a patient named Mrs. Green. The doctor says, "You need to take these pills twice a day, once in the morning and once at night. Do not take more than 2 in a 24-hour period." Mrs. Green listens carefully. "Twice a day," she repeats. The doctor continues, "You must finish the entire course, which lasts for 7 days." Mrs. Green nods. "7 days," she confirms, "and I need to schedule a follow-up appointment." The doctor looks at his calendar. "I can see you in 3 weeks. That will be on the 15th of October at 10:15. Mrs. Green writes this down. October 15th at 10:15. Here, we see the importance of instructions. Taking pills twice a day is very different from 3 times a day. Taking them for 7 days is different from 5 days. In a medical context, missing a number can be dangerous. You must be absolutely sure. If you are unsure, you should ask, "Did you say 2 pills or 2 times?" Clarification is a sign of a good listener, not a bad one. Let's look at another situation, this time dealing with public transport timetables. We have a tourist named Kenji. He is at a train station in New York. He wants to go to Washington, D.C. He approaches the ticket counter. The agent tells him, "The next train to Washington leaves at 11:30 a.m. from Platform 7. It arrives at 3:15 p.m. Kenji asks, "How much is a one-way ticket?" The agent says, "It is $89. Kenji thinks about it. "And a round-trip ticket?" The agent checks. "A round trip is $145. Kenji decides to buy the round trip because it saves money compared to buying two one-way tickets. He also needs to know if there is a delay. "Is the train on time?" he asks. The agent nods. "Yes, it is currently on schedule, but there is a 10-minute delay expected near Philadelphia, so arrival might be 3:25. Kenji adjusts his plans. He now expects to arrive at 3:25. He thanks the agent and goes to platform 7. In this exchange, we had departure and arrival times, platform numbers, and prices. The phrase one-way versus round trip is standard travel vocabulary that impacts the price significantly. If Kenji thought round trip meant two trips for $89, he would have been wrong. He had to understand the specific terms to understand the price. I want to talk briefly about how native speakers sometimes compress numbers when they speak fast. For example, the number 150 might sound like 150. The word hundred and might be swallowed. You might just hear 150. Context clues help you here. If you are talking about a price of a small item, 150 is probably $1.50. If you are talking about a monthly rent, 150 probably means 1,500. If you are talking about a speed limit, it means 150 kilometers per hour. You have to use your judgment. Similarly, years like 1990 might be compressed to 1990. The rhythm is fast. To catch these, you need to expose yourself to fast, natural speech. Don't just listen to slow, textbook audio. Listen to interviews, podcasts, and movies. Let's imagine a scene in a kitchen. Two roommates, Jack and Leo, are cooking dinner. Jack is reading the recipe. "Okay, we need 2 cups of rice," Jack says. Leo gets the rice. "And 3 tablespoons of olive oil," Jack adds. Leo pours the oil. "Now, we cook it for 20 minutes on low heat," Jack says. Leo turns the dial. "Wait," Jack says, looking at the recipe. "It says 200 degrees Celsius, not low heat." Leo checks. "Oh, you are right. 200 degrees. They almost ruined the dinner because they missed the temperature number. Cooking is a science of numbers. Temperatures, quantities, and times. Half a teaspoon of salt. Bake for 45 minutes. If you confuse half a cup with half a teaspoon, your food will taste terrible. Listening for the unit of measurement is just as important as the number itself. Is it cups, teaspoons, tablespoons, grams, ounces? These words usually come right after the number. Train your ear to wait for that unit. If you hear 2 and then tablespoons, you have the information. If you miss the unit, you are lost. Now, let's return to the idea of dates, but specifically for appointments and deadlines. Imagine a university student named Alice. She is in a seminar. The professor announces, "Your essays are due on the 30th of November. That is a Thursday. You must submit them by 5 p.m. electronically." Alice writes this down. November 30th, Thursday, 5 p.m. The professor adds, "If you submit late, you lose 5% for every day." Alice realizes the penalty is strict, 5% per day. That is a high price for being late. In this scenario, we have an ordinal number, 30th. We also have a day of the week, Thursday, and a time, 5 p.m. We also have a percentage penalty. Dates in English can be written differently in different countries. In the U.S., November 30th is written November 30th. In the UK, it might be November 30th. When listening, you hear November 30th. The month comes first in speech, usually, but you might also hear the 30th of November. Both mean the same thing. Catching the deadline is the most important part of being a student or an employee. Missing a deadline can mean failing a course or losing a client. Let's do one final comprehensive story to test your mental retention. Imagine a man named Mr. Patel. He is calling a mechanic to fix his car. He has a lot of information to exchange. He calls City Auto Repair. The receptionist, Sarah, answers. Mr. Patel says, "My car broke down. I am at 450 River Road, near the bridge." Sarah types the address. 450 River Road. "What is your phone number?" Mr. Patel says, "It is 555-0199. Sarah repeats it. 555-0199. Mr. Patel confirms, "Yes, I have a blue Toyota Camry. The license plate is ABC123. Sarah notes it down. "Okay, the tow truck will be there in about 30 minutes. The service call is $60, plus the cost of repairs." Mr. Patel asks, "Can you give me an estimate for a battery replacement?" Sarah checks. A new battery is usually around $120, including labor. Mr. Patel thinks. "Okay, that sounds fine." Sarah says, "The mechanic's name is Dave. He will call you when he is 5 minutes away." Mr. Patel hangs up. 30 minutes later, Dave calls. "I'm 5 minutes away," he says. Mr. Patel goes outside. In this story, we had an address, 450 River Road, a phone number with a 99 pattern, a vehicle model, a license plate, a duration, 30 minutes, a service fee, $60, an estimated repair cost, $120, and a warning call time, 5 minutes. That is a lot of data to process. If Mr. Patel had missed the address or the phone number, the tow truck would never have found him. If he missed the price, he might have argued later. Being an active listener means holding all these details in your head, or better yet, writing them down. As we continue this journey, the situations become a little more complex. Real life is not just about buying a ticket or ordering a coffee. Sometimes you have to understand complex schedules, compare different choices, and catch specific details that are hidden inside longer sentences. We are going to challenge your ears a little more. We are going to look at situations involving jobs, travel changes, and even some health and fitness details. These are situations where missing a number can change your whole plan. So, take a deep breath, focus your mind, and let's jump right in. Let's start with a very common scenario for many people: the job interview and salary negotiation. Imagine a young man named Marcus. Marcus has been looking for a new job for a few weeks. He finally gets a call from a company he really likes. The HR manager, a woman named Brenda, is on the phone. She says, "Hello, Marcus. We were very impressed with your interview. We would like to offer you the position." Marcus is thrilled. But then comes the crucial part. Brenda continues, "The starting salary for this position is $45,000 a year. However, after your 6-month probation period, this will increase to $48,500. Marcus needs to catch two numbers here: the starting salary and the future salary. He also needs to catch the time frame. 6-month probation. He grabs a pen. He writes down 45K and 48.5K. He knows that K is often used to represent thousand in notes, but when speaking, we say the full word thousand. If he had misheard 45 as 55, he might have accepted the job with the wrong expectation. He also needs to understand the benefits. Brenda adds, "We also offer a signing bonus of $2,000, payable in your first paycheck." Marcus is doing mental math. That is a good bonus. But he needs to check the vacation days. He asks, "How many vacation days are included?" Brenda replies, "You will receive 15 paid days off in the first year, increasing to 20 days after 1 year of service." Marcus listens carefully. 15 days. He nods, even though she can't see him. This conversation is dense with numbers. Salary, bonus, probation duration, vacation days. A B1 listener needs to hold all these pieces of information in their head to make a good decision. If you miss the after 6 months part, you might think you are getting the higher salary immediately. That is a dangerous misunderstanding. Now, let's move to another high-pressure environment, changing travel plans. Imagine a woman named Clara. She is at the train station. She has a ticket for the 10:30 a.m. train to Paris. But she wakes up late and arrives at the station at 10:30 a.m. She misses her train. She runs to the ticket counter, looking worried. The ticket agent, a man named Simon, looks at her ticket. Simon says, "I see you missed the 10:30 train. The next available train to Paris is at 11:45. Clara sighs. "Is there nothing earlier?" she asks. Simon checks his computer. "There is a train at 11:05, but it is fully booked. You could take the 11:45, or there is a slow train at 12:10. Clara looks at her watch. She has a meeting at 3:30. She needs to be there by 2:30. She asks, "When does the 11:45 arrive?" Simon says, "It arrives at 2:15. Clara calculates. If she takes the 11:45, she arrives at 2:15. That gives her 1 hour and 15 minutes to get to her meeting. That is enough time. But then, Simon adds, there is a supplement of €15 for the 11:45 train because it is a high-speed train. Now, Clara has a decision to make based on numbers. The time is 11:45. Arrival is 2:15. The extra cost is €15. She decides to pay. She says, "Okay, I will take the 11:45. Simon prints the ticket. "You are in carriage 8, seat number 32. Clara takes the ticket. "Carriage 8, seat 32, she repeats. This interaction shows how numbers are used to solve problems. She had to compare times: 10:30, 11:05, 11:45, 12:10. She had to compare arrival times: 2:15. She had to weigh the cost: €15. And finally, she had to remember her new seat location. This is active listening. You are not just hearing sounds. You are using the numbers to make choices. Let's switch gears to something a bit lighter, but equally important: health and fitness. We are going to meet a man named Greg. Greg has just joined a gym. He is having his first session with a personal trainer named Sarah. Sarah is measuring his progress. She says, "Okay, Greg, let's start with your weight. You are currently 82 kilograms. She writes it down. "And your height is 1 meter 82. Greg nods. Sarah continues. "Your goal is to reach 78 kilograms. That is a loss of 4 kilograms. She pauses. "I want you to come to the gym 3 times a week. Each session will be 45 minutes. Greg listens. 3 times a week. 45 minutes. He thinks he can do that. Then Sarah talks about his heart rate. "We need to keep your heart rate around 130 beats per minute during the cardio exercises, not higher than 150. This is a specific range. Greg needs to understand the limits. 130 to 150. If he goes over 150, he is pushing too hard. If he is under 130, he isn't working hard enough. Sarah also gives him diet advice. Try to drink at least 2 liters of water a day, and limit your sugar intake to under 25 grams. Greg is writing notes furiously. 2 liters, 25 grams. These numbers act as targets. In the context of health, precision matters. If he thought she said 200 grams of sugar, he would be eating a very unhealthy diet. The difference between 25 and 200 is huge. But if you are just hearing sounds, they can blur together if you are not focused. Now, I want to talk about a specific type of number that confuses many students: fractions and decimals. We touched on decimals briefly earlier, but let's go deeper. In everyday English, we use fractions a lot when talking about time, food, and distance. Imagine a mother named Linda talking to her son, Timmy. Linda is baking a pie. She says, "Timmy, I need you to go to the store. I need half a cup of sugar." Timmy is distracted by his phone. "How much?" he asks. Linda speaks louder. "Half a cup. And I also need 3/4 of a cup of milk." Timmy is confused. 3/4. What does that mean? Linda sighs. It means fill the cup 3/4 of the way full. In this scenario, Timmy struggled with the fraction 3/4. In English, we say 3/4 or sometimes 3/4. We also use 1/3, 2/3, and 1/2. If you are cooking, mixing up half a cup and a 1/4 cup will ruin the recipe. The difference is double the ingredient. Listening for the fraction word is key. It usually comes before the unit of measurement. Half a cup, 1/4 of an inch, 2/3 of a mile. Train your ear to recognize these fractional words. Let's look at decimals in a different context: sports. Imagine you are watching a track and field event on television. The commentator is excited. "And the runner from Jamaica has finished the race in 9.81 seconds. The commentator screams, "That is a new world record." Now, imagine you are listening to this. The number was 9.81. In sports, the difference between winning and losing is often tiny: 9.81 seconds versus 9.82 seconds. If you don't catch the decimal, you miss the drama. In English, we use the word point for the dot. We read the numbers after the point individually. We do not say 91. We say 81. So, 9.81. Let's imagine a different sport, like gymnastics. The judges give a score. Her score is 14.95. The commentator might say, "She needed a 15.0 to get the gold medal." Here, the decimal difference is even smaller: 14.95 versus 15.0. Listening to these precise numbers allows you to follow the tension of the competition. If you just hear 14 and 15, you know who won, but you don't understand how close it was. Let's move into the world of banking and loans. This is something every adult has to deal with. Imagine a couple, John and Mary. They are at the bank talking to a loan officer named Mr. Evans. They want to buy a house. Mr. Evans says, "Based on your income, we can offer you a mortgage of $250,000. John and Mary look at each other. That is a big number. Mr. Evans continues, "The interest rate is fixed at 4.25% for the first 5 years. John frowns. 4.25%, he repeats. He wants to be sure. "And after 5 years?" he asks. Mr. Evans says, "After 5 years, the rate becomes variable. It could go up to 6% or more. This is a critical detail. 4.25% versus 6%. John needs to understand that his payments could go up in the future. They also need to know the term of the loan. The loan term is 25 years, Mr. Evans says. Your monthly payment will be $1,200. Now, listen to how that number is spoken. 1,200. We don't usually say 1,200 for that specific amount in formal banking, though in casual conversation you might hear it. In banking, clarity is king. 1,200. John and Mary need to decide if they can afford that every month. This scenario involves large numbers, 250,000. Percentages, 4.25%. Time frames, 5 years, 25 years, and monthly costs, 1,200. It is a storm of numbers. A listener must be able to filter these numbers into the correct categories: total amount, rate, duration, and monthly cost. Let's try a practice scenario involving weather forecasts. Weather reports are notorious for fast speech and specific data. Imagine you are driving in your car. You hear a weather warning on the radio. The announcer says, "We are expecting a severe storm this afternoon. Temperatures will drop rapidly from 20 degrees Celsius to 5 degrees Celsius by 6 p.m. Wind speeds will reach up to 80 kilometers per hour. Rainfall will be heavy, with expected accumulations of 30 to 40 millimeters." That was a lot of information. Let's break it down. Temperature drop, 20 to 5. That is a huge drop. You need a coat. Time, 6 p.m. Wind speed, 80 kilometers per hour. That is strong wind, may be dangerous for driving. Rain amount, 30 to 40 millimeters. That means possible flooding. If you missed the temperature drop and thought it stayed at 20 degrees, you would be cold. If you missed the wind speed, you might be surprised by your car shaking on the road. Weather numbers help you prepare. They are practical, safety-focused numbers. We also hear numbers like 10% chance of rain. If you hear 10%, you probably don't need an umbrella. If you hear 90%, you definitely do. Listening for that percentage is the difference between staying dry and getting soaked. Now, let's explore a scenario involving measurements and clothing sizes. This is very practical for shopping. Imagine a woman named Isabella. She is shopping online for a dress. She reads the description out loud. Size medium. Bust, 92 centimeters. Waist, 74 centimeters. Hips, 100 centimeters. Isabella takes a measuring tape. She measures her own waist. It is 76 centimeters. The dress waist is 74 centimeters. The dress is 2 centimeters too small. She decides she needs a size large. In this case, listening to or reading numbers is about fit. If she ignored the numbers and just bought the medium because she is usually a medium, the dress would not fit. In clothing, numbers are exact. Waist 74. Length 90. Shoe size 38. These numbers are not rounded. They are specific. In English-speaking countries, you will also hear sizes like size 8 or size 10. This is another system. Isabella might hear, "This dress is a size 10. She needs to know that a size 10 is roughly a medium. But the measurements in centimeters or inches are the most reliable. Listening for words like inches, centimeters, and feet tells you which system is being used. Let's go back to a social situation. A dinner party. This is a test of polite listening. Imagine a host named David. He is serving wine. He asks his guest, "Would you like some wine? I have a red wine from 2010 and a white wine from 2015. The guest, named Sophie, prefers older wines. She says, "I will try the red, the 2010, please." She listened for the year. Wines are identified by their vintage year. If she misheard and thought he said 2020, she would expect a very young wine. Later, David offers dessert. "I made a chocolate cake. It took me 3 hours to bake." Sophie is impressed. 3 hours? That is dedication. This is a duration number. It adds to the conversation. It shows the effort. Then David says, "I can cut you a slice. Do you want a big piece or a small piece?" Sophie laughs. "Just a small piece, please. Maybe a quarter of the cake." David laughs too. "A quarter? That is a big appetite." Here they used a fraction playfully. In social settings, numbers are often used for stories, dates, times, quantities, and durations. They make the story real. "I waited for 20 minutes. I walked 5 miles. It cost $50. These numbers allow you to share experiences. I want to focus now on listening to sequences and instructions. This is very important for B1 learners. Imagine you are calling a technical support line for your internet. An automated voice answers. "Thank you for calling NetSpeed Internet. Your call is important to us. The current wait time is approximately 4 minutes. You hear 4 minutes. You decide to wait. Then the menu comes. For billing, press 1. For technical support, press 2. For new service, press 3. You listen for the right category. You have a technical problem, so you press 2. Please enter your account number followed by the hash key. You have to type a long sequence. Account numbers are often 10 or 12 digits long. You have to be accurate. One wrong digit, and the system doesn't recognize you. The voice continues. Your account balance is negative $45. Please pay your bill to restore service. You are surprised. Negative 45? You thought you had paid. You press 1 for billing. You speak to an agent. He says, "I see the issue. We charged you for a service call on May 5th. That is a $50 fee, but we applied a $5 discount." The agent explains the math. 50 minus 5 is 45. You understand the charge because you listen to the breakdown. This scenario requires you to listen to menu options, wait times, account balances, dates, and fees. It is a test of endurance for your ears. Let's talk about listening to measurements in a DIY, do-it-yourself, context. Imagine a man named Robert. He is building a bookshelf. He has a plan in front of him. He is watching a video tutorial on his phone. The instructor in the video says, "Take the first wooden plank. Measure 20 centimeters from the left side and make a mark." Robert measures 20 centimeters. The video continues. Then, drill a hole with a 6mm drill bit. Robert checks his drill bits. He looks for the one that says 6 millimeters. If he used an 8mm bit, the hole would be too big and the screw would be loose. He drills the hole. The instructor says, "Repeat this step every 30 centimeters along the plank." Robert calculates, if the plank is 90 centimeters long, he will make 3 holes. One at 20, one at 50, and one at 80. He has to process the instruction every 30 centimeters and apply it repeatedly. This is functional listening. It involves prepositions of position like from the left side, on the right, in the center, and it involves precise measurements. If you confuse millimeters with centimeters, your project will fail. A 6-centimeter drill bit is huge compared to a 6-millimeter one. Now, I want to tell a story that combines many of these elements into one chaotic day. This will be a listening comprehension challenge. Imagine a student named Nina. Nina is arriving in London for a summer course. She lands at the airport. She checks her phone. She has a message from her host family. It says, "Take the Heathrow Express to Paddington Station. It leaves every 15 minutes. The ticket is £25. Nina buys a ticket. She gets on the train. The announcement says, "The next station is Paddington. Change here for the Circle and District lines." Nina gets off. She needs to take the Underground. She looks at the map. She needs to go to High Street, Kensington. That is on the Circle line. She taps her card. She gets on the train. It is hot. She gets off at the right station. She walks out of the station. She looks at the address on her phone. 45 Kensington High Street, apartment 3B. She walks down the street. She counts the numbers. 41, 43, 45. She finds the building. She rings the bell for apartment 3B. A voice answers, "Hello?" Nina says, "Hi, I am Nina, the student." The door buzzes open. She climbs the stairs. 3rd floor. She meets the host, Mrs. Green. Mrs. Green says, "Hello, Nina. Your room is the 2nd door on the left. Dinner is at 7:30. Nina looks at her watch. It is 7:15. She has 15 minutes to shower and change. She goes to her room. She sees a note on the desk. Wi-Fi password Summer 2024. She logs in. She sends a message to her mom. "I arrived safely. The journey cost about £30 in total." Nina has navigated transport times, prices, addresses, apartment numbers, floor numbers, dinner times, and a password. This is the reality of living in English. Numbers are everywhere. They are the pins that hold the map of your day together. As we practice, it is important to realize that numbers are often surrounded by filler words or distractions. A native speaker might say, "The price is, let me think, about $50. You have to ignore the let me think, and catch the 50. Or they might say, "It costs roughly $100. Bucks is a slang word for dollars. You need to know that bucks means dollars. Or they might say, "It's a 10-minute walk." Here, the number and the unit are joined by a hyphen in writing, but spoken as one idea. 10-minute. If you only hear 10, you don't know if it is 10 miles or 10 minutes. The unit is vital. In the phrase "a couple of," it means 2. I saw a couple of movies. That means 2 movies. But sometimes people use "a couple" to mean "a few" or "some" vaguely. However, in specific contexts, a couple usually equals 2. Context is your best friend. Let's look at one more tricky area: listening to percentages and statistics in news. Imagine a news anchor speaking. The stock market fell by 2.5% today. Analysts predict a slow recovery over the next 6 months. Unemployment remains steady at 4.8%. If you are listening to financial news, every number matters. 2.5% is a significant drop. 6 months is the prediction period. 4.8% is the unemployment rate. These numbers shape the economy. To understand the news, you must be comfortable with percentages. We say percent after the number. We do not usually say percentage in the specific figure. We say the percentage is high, but the rate is 4%, not 4%. This small grammar point helps your listening. You hear percent, you know a number came before it or will follow. Finally, I want to talk about the emotional side of numbers. Yes, numbers have emotions. If I say, I waited for 10 minutes, it sounds normal. If I say, I waited for 10 hours, it sounds like a complaint. It implies frustration. If I say, the car costs $10,000, it might sound like a good deal or expensive depending on the car. If I say, the hotel room was $500 a night, my tone might suggest shock. As a listener, you listen to the number, but you also listen to the voice. Is the voice rising in surprise? Is it flat and factual? Is it sad? He is 90 years old. This might be said with respect. She failed the test with a score of 30%. This is said with disappointment. The number gives the fact. The voice gives the feeling. As an advanced listener, you catch both. As we come to the end of this practice session, I want to remind you that listening is a skill that gets better with time. You are training your brain to recognize patterns. You are learning to distinguish between 13 and 30. You are learning to catch the difference between 250 and 250. You are learning to decode dates, times, and prices instantly. Do not be discouraged if you find it difficult at first. Even advanced learners can struggle with fast numbers. The key is exposure. The more you listen, the easier it becomes. Try to incorporate numbers into your daily life. When you go shopping, listen to the prices. When you watch a documentary, listen for the statistics. When you book an appointment, confirm the time. I hope today's episode of English in Fluency has given you the tools and confidence you need. Remember, the goal is not just to hear, but to understand practical information clearly. We covered airports, shopping, business meetings, phone numbers, recipes, and travel plans. These are the building blocks of your daily communication. If you can master these numbers, you can handle almost any situation in English. I want to thank you for spending this time with me. My name is Alex, and it has been a pleasure guiding you today. If you found this practice helpful, please make sure to subscribe to English in Fluency. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss a new lesson. We have many more practice sessions coming up that will help you reach the next level. Also, leave a comment below. Tell me which type of number is most difficult for you. Is it prices, dates, or maybe phone numbers? I read your comments, and I love to hear from you. Share this video with a friend who is also learning English. Together, we can achieve fluency. Thank you for listening, and I will see you in the next episode. Keep practicing, and good luck.